And you're here to tell a little bit more about this device, and I won't go too much into it yet. But I found it interesting because in the last year at the clinic, people are spending hundreds, if not thousands, of dollars doing diagnostic labs of what are my food sensitivities, what are inflammatory foods, and I think labs and diagnostics can sometimes miss some of those sensitivities. So I'm curious how you came across this device and what jumped out at to you as a practitioner and why you are excited about this tool.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's such a like deep sort of. I could go. I'm like, oh, I want to go in 10 different directions on that question. But one thing, really thinking about, the avoidance of inflammatory foods and really sort of like making choices about what foods we eat in order to support our health. I had a clinical supervisor who one of the ways that she talked about it was like with every bite we take, we're either taking in life or we're taking in death, which is kind of a strong wording, but what is an interesting thing is just thinking about like when you really tune into that, you actually can feel that. Like when I'm eating like, some wonderful vegetables from the CSA, I can just like feel the life of them, like feel the vitality of them and the nourishment that I get from them. Where if I'm eating something that is like a food that's like highly processed and sugary, I might get like a different feeling, like a taste enjoyment, but it's not like it doesn't feel like that really literally bringing kind of life into my body. So a lot of times what I'm thinking about is in the short term, how do we help people find foods that are kind of like their problem foods, their inflammatory foods, but in the long term sense, what I really want to do is say, how do we support your GI tract in sort of having a really good barrier so that those proteins aren't passing to where they're not supposed to be, and also to making it less inflammation prone. So how do we, and a big piece of that is the microbiome. So looking at the microbiome, we have all these different, we're learning more and more and more and more every day. Like it's like I feel like the world of microbiome science is just like it just keeps on unfolding in ways, thinking about like postbiotics and how even when you kill probiotics, they have really incredible effects to do kind of a killed probiotics fecal transplant, like with Thanabiotic and things like that. So anyway, that's just there's so much exploding there. But one of the things I think about a lot is the fact that the microbiome is a really dynamic. I really think of it as an organ. So in my mind, it's like a separate organ, right? And it's a
Hmm.
really dynamic entity. It's not like you have a microbiome and that's how it is always. It's like, based on what you eat that day, if we do stool testing or something like that. And I've done a lot of stool testing in the past, and it's a valuable resource and it's great for identifying certain pathogens and things like that. But one of the things I always thought about is like, I wonder how different it would be if we took the sample next week versus this week,
Hmm.
like, and how are
Yeah.
we going to be planning like a lifelong treatment plan based off of this one little snapshot of something that's actually quite, changeable and dynamic. And that brings me to why I love Foodmarble so much is because it really lets us, be able to be looking at the microbiome